More often than not, we've all been there where we pull up to the gym after a really stressful Wednesday at work. It's raining outside, it's in the winter. We're scrolling on our phone because we just cannot be bothered to get out of the car to go into the gym. And we're debating on not turning the engine off and just driving straight home and watching Netflix. That is totally normal for men over 30. This video today is going to tell you exactly what the bare minimum is that you can do in the gym that is still going to keep you on track to get stronger, to get leaner and healthier without having to force yourself to do an extreme workout or do an hour or 2 hours or whatever it is. Firstly, we're going to keep this video really short and straight to the point because I think that sometimes this information can get a bit complicated. But first of all, it's very normal to feel like that and to actually not want to train some days. That's totally normal. Even if you love it, even if you enjoy it and you enjoy going or training from home and exercising, a lot of the time we're not going to want to go in. And that's totally normal. That's probably more normal than having bags of energy every single session. And, it makes sense. We've had a really stressful day at work. We've really struggled. Our brain's been overloaded with emails, or if you work outside or, you've got a laboring job or whatever, you've had physical energy as well. And the last thing you want to do is go and, do another bit of output again. And sitting in your car and doom scrolling and, not turning the engine off is very, very normal. But where the difference is of people that I work with and I have known over the years, and especially the reason I'm very passionate about this is because I was there myself, is knowing exactly how to still go into the gym or train from home or whatever it is and do the bare minimum that will actually move the needle forward in the grand scheme of things. Now, how I like to see it is you've got three kind of routes that that day will take you to, right? You either sit in the car and you go home. That's route number one. Route number two, you go in and you do a full session with everything you said you were going to do. Or route number three, which is what people don't think about, is programming yourself in a way and programming your program in a way that is going to still tick off a box, but isn't going to require so much brain energy and physical energy that you're not going to deplete yourself. Now, I always find that when you force yourself too much to do something, you struggle to make it long term. Because let's think about this. Let's say it's going to take us a year to get the result that we want, to feel healthier, to have the energy to play with our kids, to be stronger, to look in the mirror and actually feel proud of what we see. That might take a year. And in order to do that, we might need 3 sessions a week to do that. So if I said I need 3 sessions a week for the next year, however, whatever that is in maths, I'm not very good at maths. If that's what it takes to get results, we need to find a way that we can get 3 sessions in. Now, if I do the same intensity every single session and I look to improve on everything, which is what I want to do, ideally to move that needle forward every week, I'm going to burn out pretty quick. And the reason that is because that doesn't equate for life. It doesn't equate for life stresses, for illness, for events that happen like birthdays or holidays or anything like that. We have to be able to learn how to adapt our training to what is the actual current reality of what's going on. So one of the really beneficial things that you can do is if you've been in my school group, you would have seen how a specific training guide of how to actually train effectively with the time that you've got. But essentially, all you would need to do is pick one of the big movements that is going to move the needle on that day and just do that movement and then leave. Okay, our whole point here is not to go in there and deplete loads of energy. Our point in this moment at that time, if I cannot be bothered and I'm stressed, is just to go in, tick one little box and then leave again. And in the grand scheme of things, that is really going to be beneficial to actually moving the needle forward long term. It will contain a little bit of energy. It will tell the body what we're doing. We're still sending the training signal that we need to, but it's then just making sure that we're compromising. It's better than just not going into the gym at all and going home, although sometimes there's nothing wrong with that, which I'll come on to in a second. But the point is, it's really important to actually go in and just move the needle forward a little bit without doing the full session. So to keep it clear, let's say, for example, I'm doing a push session or a chest day, right? I'm potentially going to do 3 chest exercises or 4. I don't know. Let's just say 4 chest exercises. A bench press, which is the big one, an incline press, pec flies, and press ups. There's your 4. Out of the 4, which is the one that's probably going to move the needle the most long term? And that would be the bench press. Why? Because it's a compound movement. It burns more calories. It builds more muscle because you're using more than one muscle group as well. And it's just the absolute king for chest. Now, it doesn't have to be bench press. It could be a chest press or whatever, but a form of pressing. Now, if I'm not, feeling it, and this is something that I have done myself quite a lot of the time, I will commit to just that one exercise. So I will go, you know what? I have 20 minutes. I don't feel like doing a full session today, so I'm just going to go and do bench press. I will go in there. I will look at what I did previously. So let's say I did 30 kilo for 10 reps, for example. I'm going to go in and I'm going to go, right, okay, I'm going to do 11 reps, beat last week, and then I'm going to leave. Now, number one, you've committed to yourself a very small barrier to entry, which is brilliant, so that you can go home a bit happier. But sometimes as well, going in there and just having a very small barrier to entry can actually make you stay a little bit longer in the session anyway. It's a little bit like telling a kid, if a child's really anxious about playing football for the first time in front of a team or whatever, you might say to that kid, okay, what I want you to do is just go into there and just kick the ball once across the field, just for a little bit of a laugh. The kid might go, okay, that doesn't sound very scary. I'm just going to go and kick one football. Just kicks the ball and then realizes that everybody else is playing and then might actually want to join in. And the energy that's created there will make him potentially stay on for the full session. It's the same as us, right? We just go in with a small barrier to entry and we just make sure that we, do a little bit. And then if we want to stay a bit longer, we can. If not, we've already ticked the box off to what we need to. And that's a big win. Number 2, this is a really simple one, but I've noticed this from experience of working in gyms. Going in and just going on a treadmill for a walk or a bike or something where you can sit down and just do something very, very low, steady state. A lot of the time, when we've had a really stressful day from work, a lot of us just want to switch off. And a lot of the time that involves things like headphones for music, for films or TV or whatever. We don't necessarily want to talk to anyone. We don't want to be around many people. So we just want to get on with it and just have a bit of media time. That's why a lot of us go home instead of going to the gym, right? Because we want to switch off. So one thing you can do is just literally commit to doing what I said before, but committing just to going on a bike or a treadmill and watching an episode of a show, because it's something that you'd probably be doing anyway. It's not going to be strenuous, just a nice leisurely bike ride. And again, all you've done is put output out. I used to say to people, like, when they've got home at like 6 o'clock or whatever time they've finished, I'd ask them how long they would have in the evening, to watch TV. And when you actually look at it, it can sometimes be like 5 hours or 4 hours. Now, saying that out loud seems like a lot, doesn't it? But then when you're actually in that moment, it doesn't seem like a lot. So I would say to people, if you really can't be bothered today, what TV show are you watching? And if they said like something like Game of Thrones or something, I'd say, right, okay, have you got access to that on your phone? Most of the time it's yes. So I'd say, right, just go and sit on the bike and then just go watch an episode of Game of Thrones. And they'd be like, really? Is that it? I said, yeah, of course. By the time you've seen them after an hour episode, they're just, cycling away, but they're sweating and they feel so much better from doing that than they do, not going at all. And that's what's really, really super beneficial for this stuff, is because what you're doing then is you're teaching your brain to be able to be kind to itself, because movement, in the grand scheme of things, any movement is the key and it is the king. So it's just about telling yourself that actually the bare minimum is important. As long as long term I'm improving on everything, I can have these days where, I do the bare minimum. Now, number 3 is sometimes it actually is okay to go home. And that's something that a lot of trainers might not tell you, but sometimes it is. But it's about knowing whether that's coming from laziness or whether it is genuinely do not have it in the tank today. Now, I'm a big believer on pushing yourself and really pushing through, like mental blocks and really, really not giving up on yourself. But there are some days where actually, in the grand scheme of things, it's probably better to go home and give yourself a bit of a rest and come back the next day a bit stronger than it is to force it and then, snowball. So I think sometimes it's really important to actually listen to yourself and go home. Now, how you know the difference with that is very easy. It's easy because there's 2 ways to think about it. You're either mentally drained or you're physically drained. If you're mentally drained, that's sometimes where you would probably push through a little bit, because that just needs a little bit of a reframe to get you into the door, which is why the easy barrier to entry things that I mentioned earlier are probably best if you're mentally fatigued. If you are physically fatigued, that's a little bit different, because that means you probably need a bit of a rest. And because fat is burned when you rest, when you eat well, at the times we're not training, that's probably when you would, have a bit of a day off. So a very easy and simple way to figure that out is to squeeze your fist. If you can squeeze your fist and you can get a pretty good grip on your fist, that probably means that your central nervous system, which runs your body, is pretty recovered. So that means you can force yourself a little bit, you put your headphones in, get some music on, take some coffee, some pre-workout, and get yourself into the gym. If you can't get a good grip on your fist, that means that you probably need a little bit of a rest, and you either go home or you do some very, very, very light cardio. So that's what's very, very important here, is to know the difference between, am I mentally fatigued or am I physically fatigued? Again, a caveat to this, everybody's situation is different. You might have something really serious going on in your brain, and you might need to go home, or you might have a horrible situation going on. That's totally different. But I'm not talking about those situations. I'm talking about the situations where we're sitting in our car, like I said, and we're not sure what we should do. This is something I majorly suffered with, and I was able to kind of snap myself out of it by creating these methods based on my experience and other people's experiences as well. So if you need any help or support with this, of knowing exactly what you should be doing and a few more time-saving workout methods, I have a ton of free guides on time saving in my community group with loads of other guys that are in there at the moment, the Men's Culture community, where I share a ton of content every week, free guides, free accessory links to things to make your whole process easier. You name it, all YouTube videos, everything to help you guys to get leaner, stronger, and healthier and enjoy it is in that group. So if you want access to that, click on the link below. If you have any questions to do with anything to do in health and fitness for men over 30, give me a message and I'll see you in the next video.